What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today I need your help. I've got a couple live shows coming up with my band and I don't know which rig to choose, so I'm gonna make you choose it for me. Let's do it. Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, overdrives, guitars, cabs, speakers, pickups, I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. Unprocessed. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes who have way more gear than talent, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks. Okay, so one of the questions that I get on this channel more than anything is,
Kyle, as someone who tries to compensate for all of their personal and physical shortcomings with obscene amounts of gear, how do you choose a live rig for your bands?
I think that's a really good question, and I kind of tend to lean towards the same stuff. Even though I have a lot of stuff in my collection that is awesome, sounds great, I kind of tend to lean towards the same rigs for whichever band that it is that's playing out. So in this case, Human Animal, my kind of punk rock 90s New York hardcore band, has a few shows coming up this weekend, and instead of me kind of spending hours and hours stressing about what gear to use to inevitably end up on the same thing that I've used for the last 5 shows, I am actually going to let you, the audience, decide what rig that it is that I'm gonna play this weekend. I kind of thought that this would be a fun way to get the viewers of the channel engaged, give you guys a little bit more say in what goes on here. I know that some of you guys love telling people what to do, so here's your opportunity. I am actually soliciting your advice. Is that even a word? Is that right? All right, I'm not a total moron. So with that being said, here is how this is gonna work, guys. I have put together 3 different rigs consisting of a guitar, an amplifier, and a cabinet, and I am going to name each rig something easy to remember, and I'm gonna explain what comes in each rig, and then I'm gonna give you, the audience, the opportunity to vote down in the comments of this video of which rig it is that I choose. So, whichever rig it is that you would like to vote for, put it down in the comments. I will tally all of those comments by Friday at 9 a.m. to choose the winner, in which I will make a community post and let you guys know which rig that it is gonna be, and then I will make a video using the rig throughout the weekend, kind of like a vlog / live show type video, since a lot of you guys have been asking me for some live footage of my bands, and I'll put that up next week for you guys to see the rig that you voted for in action. So without further ado, let's get to the gear.
To fall to death like the ones before.
Okay guys, for rig number 1 here, I am going to dub this rig the Classic. Starting off with the amplifier, we have a Soldano Avenger 100 going into a Soldano front-loaded 4x12 straight cab with vintage 30s and K100 speakers, and then we have a Gibson Les Paul Custom Silverburst. So the Soldano Avenger 100, if you guys are not familiar with this amp is essentially Soldano's attempt to make a single channel SLO 100 or 50, depending on which one you got, with slightly more affordable components, because everybody knows the SLO 100 is basically the cost of a vehicle and not super obtainable for the average person. So this was a more affordable yet still very high quality version of that single channel, and it also had the Warren Haynes mod installed from the factory, which makes the amp a little bit rounder in the mids overall, and I just really like this amp for the punk rock type stuff because it just has that vibe to it. It's not super tight, it's definitely not modern, it's got plenty of gain, it's got a big low end, but it's not over the top. It's just a well-balanced amp, and when you put it into a cabinet like this front-loaded Soldano cab, this cab has a lot of low-end punch, but it's also a little bit tighter than something like, say, a Mesa rectifier cab. So you can actually tighten up the Soldano low end on the Avenger if you want to, or you can really push the low end on it to get a huge low end thump. So these two make a fantastic pair. Over to the Gibson Les Paul Custom. This is just, this is a bucket list guitar for me. I absolutely love this thing. So I wanted to add it on the list because number one, Silverburst Les Paul Custom, classic guitar, right? And number two, I don't get to play it enough. So I felt like it would be a good match with this Soldano half stack. Now in the bridge, we have a custom Vineham Rampage, which is like a hot Alnico based PAF pickup. Not Alnico based, it's a hot PAF based Alnico 5 pickup. Sounds really awesome. It's big, it's fat, it's got a lot of definition, and it's gonna pair really well with this Soldano for an overall really huge sounding tone. So rig number one, the classic. All right guys, so rig number two, I am going to name this rig the Modern. And this consists of an Omega Grandifier head, an Omega 4x12 front-loaded cab with the DV77 and the VM12-65 speakers by Eminence, designed by Omega. And here we have a Dunable R2DE. I always get that backwards. Dunable R2DE, which this is an import version of the famous Dunable D2. R2. So starting with the amplifier, the Omega Grandifier, if you have been living under a rock the past few years, the Omega Grandifier is kind of one of the best new modern boutique high gain amplifiers on the market. It's a single channel 100 watt amplifier. Mine is loaded with EL34B power tubes, and it is just super tight, super modern, crazy mid-cut. It's incredibly articulate, and it just has a really unique voicing overall. I really, really love playing this amplifier, but it doesn't pair with everything super well because of that extreme mid voicing and the tightness. So what it does pair well with is the Omega 4x12 cab. Go figure. So this cab is front loaded, and it has a special speaker arrangement that Omega puts in all their cabs because it gives a special sonic signature, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you that this cab definitely has its own voice. The DV77 is kind of the hot new speaker on the market for the high gain stuff. It is a very balanced speaker in my opinion. It's very articulate, and it takes to the Grandifier super well. The VM12-65 is kind of a similar speaker, but it's a little bit more round and forward in the mids. So we've got the DV77 on the bottom, VM12-65 on top. This thing is gonna project, but this cab sounds so huge that I'm not gonna have any problems with this rig sounding overly tight. And I think that they are a fantastic pair together. And on over to the Dunable DE-R2, R2DE. I am literally never going to get that model number right. Sorry, Sasha. But yeah, this is a Dunable guitar. This is a take on a Gibson RD body shape. And it just, just look at it. It's absolutely beautiful. This is a killer looking guitar. This is a killer playing guitar. It's actually one of my favorite guitars. And it has these stock Dunable pickups in it, which I actually am not the biggest fan of, but in this rig, I think they're gonna work really well because they're a little bit lower output, they're a little fatter and rounder than most of the other pickups in my other guitars, and that's gonna complement the tightness and the forward mids of the Omega to kind of balance it out a little bit. And on top of that, this rig is literally all murdered out and looks absolutely incredible. So cool points just for the aesthetic of the rig. So rig number two, the Modern. Oh, I don't think my knees can handle number three. And finally, I present to you rig number three, the Standard. Now, as you can see, this rig doesn't really need any introduction, but also, yes, it does, because there's something a little bit different about this Rev G dual rectifier. It is KSR modified, and we'll get into that in a minute, but Rev G dual rectifier into a 1999 Mesa traditional 412 cab with the stock vintage 30 speakers. And to round the rig out, we have my favorite guitar. This is my Balaguer Typhon. This has a Seymour Duncan distortion in the bridge, and if you guys have seen any of my other videos, you're probably very familiar with this guitar. So I am dubbing this rig the Standard because a Mesa dual rectifier into a Mesa cab for punk and hardcore music is something that we're all very, very familiar with at this point. So add in a Duncan distortion pickup to the mix, and you guys should pretty much know what this is gonna sound like. But let's get into those KSR modifications. How much do they change the amp? Well, they change it a lot and they don't. And what I mean by that is it changes the low end to make this one way tighter than a standard Rev G dual rectifier. It also has a depth mod on the power section of this amplifier. So not only is it tighter, but you can get a lot of low end from the power amp that is not actually there. If you've ever plugged directly into the power amp of a dual rectifier using another preamp, one thing you may notice quickly is there's not a lot of low end in it at all. So adding a depth control to a Mesa dual rectifier preamp creates a lot of low end where there was none before. So if you're tightening it in the preamp, you can add some more from the power amp and still get a massive wall of sound low end, but it's gonna be much more tight and articulate because of the mods that Kyle has done to this. There is also more articulation in the gain, and overall it seems maybe just a tad more mid-forward, but in the grand scheme, it sounds like a dual rectifier. Very much retains that original voicing, which is a good thing because dual rectifiers sound good. They just have a couple of shortcomings depending on who you ask, me being one of those people. And Kyle has fixed every complaint that I have about a dual rectifier in this modified Rev G. So moving on to the cabinet. If you're with my channel, you are gonna know this cabinet very well. It's the one that I do all my amp demos on. It is a 1999 Mesa traditional 412. I've got a hair in my eye or something. What the hell is going on here? Anyways, it is a Mesa 1999 412 traditional cab, stock vintage 30s. These speakers are well broken in, and these vintage 30s from this era tend to be a little bit on the warmer side anyways. This is just an incredibly balanced cab, and it has become one of my favorite cabs over the years, and not really much more to say about it. You guys are very familiar with the cabinet. It's gonna sound good with a lot of metal style amps. Onto the guitar, this is my Balaguer Typhon that I got from Joe Balaguer. This was a prototype model before they put the rest of the guitars into production, and I was lucky enough to end up with it. It's got stainless steel frets, it's got an ebony fretboard, a roasted maple neck, a mahogany body. In the bridge of this guitar, we have that Seymour Duncan distortion pickup, which is responsible for most of the tone coming out of this guitar, and it sounds incredible. This guitar plays incredible. It's absolutely rock solid as far as tuning goes, so it's a no-brainer that I had to include this guitar in one of the rigs because it's my favorite guitar to play, and it's very, very reliable, especially in a live setting. You guys should relatively know how this rig is gonna sound, and I will not be mad if you decide to choose it. So that is the standard. All right, guys, so there you have it. Those are your choices for the rig that I'm going to use this weekend for my band Human Animal. Yes, I am the guy who wears his own band's merch because I believe in marketing. So now it's your turn to do the work. Number one, choose your rig. Do you want the classic, the modern, or the standard? Put it down below in the comments, and again, I will tally all the votes by Friday at 9 a.m. I will reveal the winner via community post, and then I'll use the rig throughout the weekend, and I'll report back to you my findings in a follow-up video next week. I hope that you guys like this idea. I was pretty excited about it. Any way that I can engage you guys, the viewers who support this channel, and give you the ability to kind of participate in these videos, I'm gonna go after it. So I hope that you like the idea. And if this does well, if you guys enjoy it, we will definitely do this more often in the future with my other bands, and I very much look forward to that. So with that being said, if you guys like this video, if you like this video idea premise, if you like my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, hit the like button on the way out on the video so it gets a little traction, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my future uploads, including the follow-up video to this one. If you want to support what it is that I do here, I have some affiliate links down below that greatly help the channel out, including Sweetwater. You click that link, buy something nice from the fine folks at Sweetwater, I get a little bit of a kickback. It costs you nothing extra and it greatly helps me move forward. I have also added a Cash App donation link down below if you just want to donate directly to me in order to fund future video ideas or just to buy snacks for the road this weekend. And finally, you can become a member of my Patreon community by joining this list of fine people and supporting the channel that way. I am actually updating the things that I am going to offer for my Patreon members. So if you want to get in on stuff like one-on-one video chats and exclusive live streams and stuff like that, consider joining the Patreon and supporting the channel. I'll love you forever, whether you want me to or not. And finally, consider joining my Facebook group or my Discord server if you want to get in on the belligerent amateur community outside of the YouTube channel. I promise you, it's a great non-toxic place to talk about gear, and it's growing quickly, so I would really love to have you guys along for the ride. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.